Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is August 22nd, Thursday, 2019, and tonight's topic. New Zealand approves employer-employee payments in Litecoin and Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Tonight we're going to do a bit of a review of some of the crypto stories that we've been seeing the last week or so. We've been focused a lot on the Fed and gold and silver the past week or so. We need to catch up on our crypto news. Let's knock out that first story on New Zealand first. Now, this came out, it was sometime last week, where New Zealand, the Inland Revenue Service of New Zealand, came out with a binding tax ruling, which effectively stated, and I'll get you the language, that employers could pay employees in cryptocurrencies. And they went as far as defining which cryptocurrencies, and interestingly enough, they use Litecoin a couple of times in their examples. Litecoin used as an example under New Zealand's new law allowing employees to be paid in cryptocurrencies. And they give an example where Deidre is employed by Crypto Wonderland. In addition to her $180K salary, I guess she is in Wonderland, Deidre's contract provides for a gross payment of 10 Litecoin if Crypto Wonderland's profit exceeds the previous year. So she can get a Litecoin bonus. Wouldn't that be nice? So Crypto Wonderland has an exceptional year. Remember, this is the New Zealand Inland Revenue who's passed this binding law that this is just an example of how to calculate her payment in Litecoin. Crypto Wonderland must now calculate the New Zealand dollar equivalent of Litecoin on the day Deidre is paid. In accordance with the standard practice, Crypto Wonderland uses conversion rates obtained at approximately 5 p.m. from a New Zealand-based exchange that meets in KYC AML requirements. At the relevant time, 10 Litecoin is worth New Zealand, looks like 1,160 New Zealand dollars, and the bonus is subject to PAYE. A certain amount must be paid to the commissioner. There's a withholding on that, and so the net amount of $763 worth of Litecoin can now be transferred to Deidre. So they've actually gone ahead and clarified and legalized how payments can be made in cryptocurrency. And interestingly enough, the example they gave was in Litecoin. So I'll leave you the link. It's BR Publication 1901, Income Tax, Salary and Wages Paid in Crypto Assets, made pursuant to, it's a rule, it's a public rule. It's not under consideration under Section 91D of the Tax Administration Act of 1994. And the ruling applies to payment of remuneration to employees in crypto assets in circumstances where there's crypto assets that are paid for services performed by employees under employment agreements or for a fixed amount or form a regular part of the employee's remuneration. Now, in that example, they gave an example of someone who's getting a bonus in cryptocurrency. She was getting 10 Litecoin, but you can get paid in New Zealand as well. Now, this ties into a broader trend. We saw the pumper, the guy who's always pumping Bitcoin, Anthony Pompliano. He's a paisan. He was on CNBC or one of the shows. They gave it with Joe Kernan, and Peter Schiff was complaining, how come I can't come on and shill gold? But anyway, he was on there shilling Bitcoin, and he made a point that I've been making for a while, which is we have reached I don't use the word tipping point, but we have reached a point where cryptocurrencies have become almost mainstream to the point where you have Ohio is accepting Bitcoin in taxes. Now people say, well, they're not really accepting Bitcoin. They run through a payment process. Doesn't matter. They're part of the on-ramp, off-ramp. There's regulations involved that allow these payment processors to do that. But in this case, in New Zealand, this is not a payment processor. The employer can actually not give the cash equivalent of Litecoin, but actually hand over the Litecoin. The only thing that's incumbent upon the New Zealand employer is to figure out how many dollars in New Zealand dollars it's worth at the time that they transfer that Litecoin, and then they have to do the necessary withholding. But it is an actual crypto transfer. It's a peer-to-peer, as you would say, not a one of these cases where they'll run it through the processor and give you the dollar equivalent. All right, now what else is going on in the crypto land? One other thing, I want to mention this before. We got a lot of Litecoin and Bitcoin stories. Obviously, those are the big ones, along with Ethereum, that are worth talking about. By the way, I wasn't planning on bringing this up, but it just reminded me. There is a Twitter handle, Bitcoin, like at Bitcoin, and it looked like it was run by Bcash people, Bitcoin Cash, Roger Ver. Somehow that Twitter is no longer run by the Bcash people, and the people running it now are they've taken down all the Bcash promotion, and they're making a point of calling out Bitcoin Cash as Bcash and that it's a scam. So it's interesting that they've taken over that account. Now, I don't know how this all happened. We know that Jack, who runs Twitter, is a big Bitcoin fan, and there's been people complaining that Bcash people have been trying, especially Roger Ver, have been trying to say that that's the real Bitcoin. They're trying to call real Bitcoin Bitcoin Core and calling Bcash Bitcoin. So I don't know if Twitter had anything to do about getting that Twitter handle away from them, whether he sold it. Not quite sure what happened there. Anyway, wasn't planning on mentioning that. But now, one thing that did happen, which is on the schedule to talk about today, and it's something that we talked about maybe 4 or 5 months ago when there was basically no movement in the crypto space. And I was saying we had a lot of things coming up on the institutional side, on the adoption side. We had Fidelity coming up. We had Bakkt coming up, TD Ameritrade, ErisX. And I also mentioned this Japanese giant, Rakuten. And they are now have finally launched trading in 3 currencies, cryptocurrencies. Now, why is this important? Well, Japan is harsh in some respects on privacy coins, but they're very accepting of cryptocurrencies in general. And this is a very large company. But the reason I mentioned this way back when, during the time period of, I guess this is back in the spring when the Notre Dame pretty much burned down. During that time period, Japanese e-commerce company, this Rakuten, had announced it was going to launch cryptocurrency exchange. You say, well, so what? There's so many exchanges out there, and what's one more in Japan? But the reason I think this is important, and it's a much bigger deal, I think, even than Facebook trying to do its silly Libra coin. This is a e-commerce giant, Rakuten, but it's not just an e-commerce giant, because in Japan, they have these mega corporations that have their hands in a lot of different pies. Well, they also own a bank. They own an e-commerce platform, a social media platform, and now they own and run a cryptocurrency platform. So the reason I say this is a big deal, this is what adoption looks like, maybe for worse. You could say for better, for worse, because this is kind of the amalgamation of everything. This is putting all of the on-ramp, off-ramp points, the transactions under the purview of one large regulated Japanese company. What I mean by that is, well, you're on social media and you want to make a payment. This is kind of what Facebook wants to achieve. Well, Rakuten's not issuing their own, or maybe they'll do their own stable coin, but they're allowing people to buy the cryptocurrencies. Obviously, if you bank with Rakuten, they don't have a problem with that. You can buy cryptocurrencies on their exchange. You can bank with them. You can buy products on their e-commerce platform with their cryptocurrencies. You can talk on your social media platform. So now you're under the watchful eye. You have Silicon Valley, who has tremendous power, but I'd imagine this company will have tremendous power because, unlike Silicon Valley, who hasn't really managed to pull all of it together, meaning social media, banking, e-commerce, and now cryptocurrency, it looks like this company has got that all together. So important to watch that. That could be a model. Now, I think Facebook is messing up by going this route with trying to put their own currency and make it global. I guess they think that their ecosystem is global, so that's why they want to do their own currency, where this Rakuten is basically a Japanese company. But Twitter might, I think they're focused on doing and promoting Bitcoin on their platform. And Twitter right now. There's no bank involved with Twitter. It is a social media company. It doesn't have any e-commerce on its site right now, and obviously it's not a crypto exchange, although you might see some integration with Jack's Square Cash App much more tightly with Twitter going forward. So I think you are going to see these types of amalgamative deals amongst large companies, either bringing them all together themselves like Rakuten or doing type of cross ventures with other companies. Now, just to break it up from the crypto, I want to show you this, which I thought was quite humorous. Barack and Michelle Obama are buying a $15 million estate in Martha's Vineyard. So I guess being in government service, public servant pays well, $15 million. I wonder where they get that money. It must be from their advance from their Netflix deal. But what I found interesting was, shouldn't they be moving to higher ground? The picture of this shows that basically they can walk to the beach. There's no cliff or anything. And, this whole idea with global warming, I'm not sure you should be shelling out your $15 million to be that close to the water. But in any event, I do digress. And let's get back to our crypto stories. I'm going to talk now about this Bitcoin, Litecoin, this maximalist argument, the use case, and so on. Just some further points. We already did a whole video on it, but some other points came to mind. The idea of the Bitcoin maximalists is that basically Bitcoin is everything. They don't even like to use the word crypto. It's not crypto Twitter. It's Bitcoin Twitter. Everything is Bitcoin. Everything is Bitcoin. And I just see that as very limiting. I'm not saying that Bitcoin doesn't serve all of the needs, perhaps, of people who want to do peer-to-peer exchanges. Like, okay, if Bitcoin works, and everyone says, well, we all revolve around one money. Well, not always. I mean, we've had examples in history where people have used different monies. There's no such thing as a standard that has been set by the free market. Any gold standard we've had in history has been set by governments. That's a big distinction, and people, even when you had the government's gold standard, people didn't trade in gold, especially during the last gold standard we had. Only central banks were allowed to transmit gold to the United States Treasury. Dollars to the United States Treasury and get gold for them. The plebes were not transacting in gold in the United States. They weren't allowed to hold gold, and they transacted in silver until 1965. And then after that, they transacted in clad coins, and then in 1971, no one traded in gold because Nixon ripped up that particular gold standard. So the idea that everyone's going to go to a gold standard, and therefore the analogy is everyone's going to go to Bitcoin, complete rubbish. There's no historical basis to say that everyone in the world is going to use one currency and one currency alone. So I say it's ridiculous to think Bitcoin will provide all functions, especially when it's far more interchangeable immediately with other assets than gold ever was. Now, there is this backup Bitcoin argument, and some news has come out. We're going to talk briefly about Mimblewimble, but people are saying that, there's the idea that Litecoin is just a backup Bitcoin. It's on a different script, and therefore if Bitcoin fails, you can always use Litecoin. Oh, okay. That's not the primary reason, though, for there to be Litecoin, any more than it's the primary reason for silver's value to be if the lights go out, now we can transact in silver. Yeah, there's some value there, but if there really was value in silver as a backup currency, it'd be worth a lot more. And if there was real value in Bitcoin, Litecoin really existing just in case Bitcoin goes down, I don't think that's what it is. But here's the real reason that I think that the Bitcoin maximalists are just, I think that they're off base here. So if you're going to transact peer-to-peer, that's assuming we don't have this Rakuten thing, we don't have people staking, we don't have people moving in and out of stable coins, we don't have an entire ecosystem, but all you want to do is have one currency that you can comfortably transmit to somebody else. Say, okay, well, maybe that could be Bitcoin. But there's no reason why another secure coin or secure network can't also do that. I don't know if it's faster or cheaper. Then why not? Why wouldn't you want to have another coin? And then the Bitcoin maximalists come back, well, Lightning Network, you're not going to need other coins. It's almost like they're trying to come up with ways to make so that you don't have another coin, even if the markets are using other coins. But as you get these more sophisticated trading and finance developing, by definition, there needs to be multiple secure blockchains in addition to Bitcoin. They're living in this world where they think everybody is going to peer-to-peer transact with each other. Everyone's going to accept Bitcoin. And I think that's just pie in the sky stuff. And here's another reason. I don't want to beat this a dead horse here, but the other thing is that Bitcoin is being used more and more as Pomp will tell you, it is going to be part of the portfolio of institutional investors in his mind. That may or may not happen, but if that's the case, they're not going to be spending it. They're not going to be using it as a transactional currency. They're going to be using it as a store of value, similar to what gold is today. People don't spend gold. That doesn't mean that gold doesn't have value because no one spends it anymore. People get very annoyed when I say, well, then it's lost one of its characteristics of money. You don't understand money. I don't really care about money. I don't think an asset that's a currency, whether it's money, whether it fits the definition or not, is what gives its value. If something has value because it's a great medium of exchange, but it doesn't fit the definition of money, who cares? And I actually think silver and gold don't meet the definitions of money because one of the definitions of money is that it's widely accepted and it's a medium of exchange. It's not. It used to be, but they're not anymore. That doesn't mean they're not valuable. It's the same with cryptocurrencies. If they don't meet the regression theory and no one had any use or want for or utility for Bitcoin, all right, so maybe it doesn't meet that definition of money. It doesn't mean it's not valuable as a transactional currency or as a store of value. And one final point, and then we'll get to some more news on that Mimble Wimble and what's going on with Litecoin privacy from Charlie Lee. All right, so the other thing that we get, and I get this and just part of the way I analyze things, is people tend to look at things very binary. Gold versus silver, silver versus gold, Bitcoin versus gold, gold versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin versus Litecoin. And they're not binary choices, I don't think. So here's the thing with Bitcoin. You can come up with points, and you can come up with items to compare. And you can say, well, based on my analysis, Bitcoin is superior to all the cryptocurrencies. And I can look at that. I can even agree with the analysis 100%. But that doesn't mean that the other coins are worthless. It doesn't mean that they're of no value whatsoever. So here's a point. So the best car on the road doesn't mean that all the cars are going to be the best car on the road. Not everyone's going to drive a Lambo, whatever people think the best car is. Best for what? But here's another way of looking at it. As I say, choosing Bitcoin over all others makes sense. I can agree it's the best one, but it doesn't negate the value of other coins. But think back to discussions of gold and silver. Gold is a superior store of value, monetary value versus silver. Now, there's silver people who argue with me, oh, silver's a great store of value. It's not. Historically, gold has done far better than silver as a store of value. But that doesn't mean that silver has no monetary value. It doesn't mean silver is not worth anything. But if you're a real gold bug, you'll scoff at silver and say, I don't want anything to do with it. Well, I think that's foolish. But here's the best way I think of how I look at it. So it's not necessarily the best. It's my best way of looking at it is cars are better at traveling long distances. Okay. Motorbikes are better for short ones. But is a motorbike of no value just because you could take a car on short distances? Now, the analogy there is pretty obvious. The car is a Bitcoin. Car can go a long distance far better than a motorbike can. Some might argue if you're a biker. I'm talking about a moped, okay? But you can also, instead of taking your moped down to the corner shop a mile or two away, you could take a car there. But the motorbike is actually more valuable to take the car there. The motorbike is actually more valuable to take that short trip than the car, even though the car can do it all. And that's what Bitcoin is. So if Bitcoin is slower, more expensive for small transactions, well, then you're going to need a cheaper, faster coin. Oh, but Lightning Network. Okay, Lightning Network. Anyway, enough on that. Let's move on now to this Mimblewimble and what exactly is going on with that, because one of the issues, one of the things that gives these cryptocurrencies value are the strength of the network, but I think is basically getting them on exchanges. Now, that goes counter to the idea of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin in general, that the value of cryptocurrencies is that it's a peer-to-peer payment system, and now they've all been kind of corralled into these exchanges, these centralized exchanges. But that's where price discovery takes place. That's where the bulk of the transactions take place. That's where the bulk of fake transactions take place that actually do form part of the price discovery. But being on an exchange and having volume is a very important part of the value of a cryptocurrency. And the top three in trading volume are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Litecoin has more trading volume than Bcash, more than XRP. The only one that has more is Tether. But I don't count that. That's people moving in and out for transactions. So the idea that there's a wide trading ecosystem for Litecoin actually gives it value. Now, you could say, well, it's just a knockoff of Bitcoin. What's the point? Well, one of the things that Litecoin is working on, and there's a trade-off here, is this thing called Mimblewimble, which will pretty much make the Litecoin transactions private. So you won't get the whole... So what happens when people are not familiar with how it works, when you make a transaction and the Bitcoin goes from one person to the other, if you can identify that transaction, you can watch that Bitcoin through the whole transactional history. And if there's been a tainted transaction in that chain, then someone who's aware of that will say, I don't want that Bitcoin. It's almost like getting marked bills. That's not as easy to figure out, but it can be done, and that's how they do track down criminals, through forensic readings of the blockchain. They triangulate and they figure out where those Bitcoin... I saw it happen in real time. YouTube, boom, cut it off. Anyway, I was talking about, but I put it right back on. With Bitcoin or Litecoin, you can track down transactions by doing forensic analysis of the blockchain. Now, privacy coins don't allow that. They jumble up the blockchain, so you really can't tell where the coin came from. They're fungible. Now, coins like Zcash and Monero are privacy coins. Now, the problem with privacy coins for certain exchanges, and what happened in England, it appears that Barclays shut off Coinbase's bank account. So Coinbase had to kind of had to scramble to get another bank account. And I think the issue there was Zcash they had been listing, and in order to get onto this new bank, I think they had to drop the listing of Zcash. Now, they still have Zcash in the United States, but I know that Japan is not in favor of privacy coins. It looks like the UK regulators are not in favor of privacy coins, and I could see a day where the US is not in favor of privacy coins. Now, right now, Bitcoin and Litecoin are quasi-private, but because they're open blockchains, you can track down transactions if you know where to look and you know where to start and you have some information. What this Mimblewimble project will do will make essentially Litecoin like Monero or Zcash, and not necessarily in the technology, but in the result and how the coin can be used and can be a fungible coin. So instead of having your marked bills, you basically would have just straight on cash. And what Charlie Lee was saying is that is, again, he's focused on the definition of money, but I don't know if that's necessary for money. It's supposed to be fungibility, but the idea is that if it's not fungible, then it's not money. I think if it's not it is fungible, but it's just that, I mean, I think that the cash that's marked is still fungible. It's just trackable. But you're getting into definitions. That's not the point. The thing is, though, if Litecoin were to add this feature, and since it is such a largely traded a coin, and it's considered backup Bitcoin, and it has very high hash rate, large amount of transactions, still 10 times fewer transactions than Bitcoin, that would be a differentiator. And that would put us a lot of attention on Litecoin, because then you would say, well, it's faster Bitcoin, it's cheaper Bitcoin, and it is private Bitcoin. And that would be a huge deal. That would be a differentiator, so you wouldn't just have this argument that it's another secure blockchain, because some Bitcoin maximalists say you don't need another secure blockchain. And that I never understood. I mean, if you're interested in decentralization, you don't want just one. That's the whole idea. But if they were to be able to pull this off, which technologically it can be done, this feature can be added, and there seems to be the ability through the Litecoin Foundation and Charlie Lee to make it happen, whereas Bitcoin probably won't get there. Probably doesn't want to do that, especially with the institutional investors and backed. But Litecoin might do it. Now, the issue is, will they lose their exchange listings as a result? If they don't, I think it's a very positive development, but it's a trade-off. But it seems like they're willing to go ahead and try this, and I think if they pull it off, it'll be big news for Litecoin. But I think if they pull it off and then they get delisted and it becomes kind of a criminal coin, like it starts to get viewed like Monero and Zcash, well, then they've destroyed the coin. So I think it's important to consider that. I know they're considering it, but seems like here Charlie Lee just came out 2 days ago and said the main developer of Grin, it's a privacy, is now working with Currency and I on the design. We've been ironing out the mechanism of getting Litecoin in and out of Mimblewimble. Also figured out how to handle Mimblewimble fees in a clean way. So now the question is, can they hold on to their listings? I think if they can, that's a big deal. It's how a coin should be. I mean, the blockchain, it's nice to be able to track everything back, but by the same token, the idea of, that was the whole the thing of these dusting transactions that happened. People, somebody was sending around very small amounts of Litecoin for the purposes of getting the wallet address and then tracking it back and coming up with your identity and so on. But we'll see what happens. And the other thing also, just news on Litecoin here is, I put this out and I think Charlie Lee was mentioned in it, explaining why being the dominant coin in the respecting mining algorithm is crucial for the security of the coin. One difference the biggest difference between Litecoin and Bitcoin is the fact that it uses, instead of the cryptography SHA-256, it uses script. And most of the mining hash power of that script, which most coins don't use, goes to Litecoin. So it's not like Litecoin is going to lose mining hashing power to Bitcoin or vice versa. Less likely that Bitcoin would lose any to Litecoin, and Ethereum is on its own type as well. But Litecoin is dominant in there. So again, there's your decentralization. You've got 3 different cryptographies, and you have a relatively secure blockchain in Litecoin. It's nowhere near the size and scale of Bitcoin, but still. And again, I did show a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago that Litecoin is at the same spot in its progression in terms of transactions, hash rate, market cap as Bitcoin was 3 or 4 years ago. Now, if it continues, fine. All these things could go up in smoke. I'm making the point. I'm not making a case for Litecoin. I'm not making a case for Bitcoin. I'm making the case for multiple secure blockchains for purposes of decentralization and for purposes that each of these coins can do different things and can focus on smaller transactions, faster that Bitcoin doesn't have to be everything any more than, if you have a bus, it doesn't have to be able to convert it into a sports car at a moment's notice. There's no point in that. That's why there are buses, and that's why there's cars, and that's why there's airplanes. That's why there's compact cars and large cars and small cars and so on. All right, let's see if we have any other crypto news, and we're going to get back to, one other story I think is a little humorous. was this one. Let me see what you guys think of this. Now, if you commit a crime, a serious crime, you are called a felon. If you've been convicted, you're called a convicted felon. Well, San Francisco now has said that if you're not to call them that, they're to be called justice-involved persons, whatever that means. And finally, there's one other story here. I mentioned this a couple years ago. I said at one point, the big thing that's going to happen in the crypto space are crypto IPOs, not ICOs, but registered with the SEC, because I think this is what Wall Street wants. They want another bubble. You got these negative interest rates out there. They're still pumping out these IPOs of companies that don't make any money. They're still managing to sell them, but those days will probably can't carry on forever. If they can start getting crypto IPOs out the door, I think they're going to make a lot of money with all the hype with backed. That's another reason I think that this thing is not going to get stopped. It's going to get regulated, but it's not going to get regulated to death, that's for sure. It's going to get taxed, it's going to get regulated. But guess what? The stock market is taxed and regulated. There's a fortune to be made there. Same with the bond market. All right, well, if you enjoyed this, I'm going to come over and see what you guys are saying in the comments. I want to thank the patrons, and I want to thank the Subscribestar members and those who are donating via PayPal. Those who are sending items of value, checks, currency, and silver to the P.O. Box, Smaulgld LLC, P.O. Box 714, Dover, New Hampshire, 03820. And for those of you who sometimes anonymously send small amounts of Bitcoin and Litecoin to those QR codes that you see on the screen, and of course to all those who are purchasing this Smaulgld game-changing mugs, the coffee mugs, the beer mugs, the beer steins, the pet bowls. So please check out all of the Smaulgld items that are on offer on the Smaulgld.com site. Please make sure you subscribe there. Also to the BitChute channel, to the Smaulgld YouTube channel. And then also check out, we also have storable food. We have coffee for sale through affiliate agreements. There's even a wine offer, I believe, as well. So check all that out. It helps the site out. And of course, there's 3 precious metal dealer affiliate links: Golden Eagle Coin, Money Metal Exchange, and SD Bullion, where you can pick up your precious metals. It's not an investment advice to buy precious metals, but if you're going to do so, and you click on those links below this BitChute, below this YouTube, and on the Smaulgld site, click on those links. You pay no more, no less than if you visited those sites directly. But Smaulgld gets a small commission, so I do appreciate that. So please check out what we've got below this BitChute and YouTube, and shop and donate and subscribe. Thank you very much. And let's see what y'all are saying. I'll leave this. Let's see what we got here. All right. We got Ann Holloman is here. I see. Brian Grant. Could our most potent political force as individuals isn't our vote, but what we choose to accept in exchange for our labor? Yes, but the question, Brian, is the potency of that choice is a function of how you can reach many people in order to make that choice. So you can see right now there's people running around trying to get, quote, adoption for cryptocurrencies. Doesn't happen very easily. So unfortunately, fiat currency, which means it's by order, so let it stand, that's the quickest way to get people to use something as a medium of exchange, and that's determined by government. So you're almost saying ignore legal tender laws, and then it's a potent political force. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard for people to transact in currencies that are not mandated by them. But it's a good point, Brian. It's worth considering there. Anne is here. What does she say? The crypto world is never going to be the same financial mainstream we're in. Yeah, they are. This idea that there's going to be one Bitcoin and people globally are going to use it and everyone's going to understand it and everyone's going to use it and 500, 600 million people are going to have wallets. I don't see that happening that way. That would be a massive disruption. I know it's only been 10 years, but even in the United States where there's no shortage of media There's no shortage of phones. There's no shortage of ways to get cryptocurrencies. It's just not there. I mean, it's a niche amount. I mean, yes, Bitcoin's worth $200 billion, but most people would say a lot of that's just speculation. All right. What else do we got in the comments? I'm back on my thing there. Fiona's here. Hello, Fiona. All right. Tossing Molotovs. Ignore the fiat cost of any altcoin. Just look at the value of the Bitcoin chart. Well, that's one way of looking at it. A lot of people, and they do, they track the percentage of the altcoin to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is pulling away. Actually, I got a chart for you on that. Somebody put this chart together for what it's worth. Let me show it to you. The guy was saying that when Litecoin gets to this, and this is investment advice, this is just what somebody noticed. Here. When the Litecoin ratio to Bitcoin gets low, it bounces hard off the bottom. I don't know if you can see that chart. It'll be on the Smaulgld site tomorrow. You can see it goes down. It's gone on average at least 200%. So this guy is saying scale in. Now, that's historically, that's what's happened. Who knows why those things have happened. But we are now down to Bitcoin is very dominant. Because Litecoin, remember, went up to $145. Now it's down to $75. And Bitcoin only got up to like 13,000. It's about 10,100. So Litecoin fell hard. Bitcoin did not. And that's very similar to what happens in gold and silver. When silver falls, it falls a lot harder than gold. And Litecoin looks to be the same way. And also, Litecoin had a bigger surge than Bitcoin had early in the year and had it earlier. All right. Thank you, Tossing Molotovs. All right. Philip Quinn is here. Hello, Philip. Tossing Molotov says he's out. And Ann says there's many flavors of ice cream, cars, brands, etc. Yeah, and you get people who sell a particular brand of ice cream will tell you it's the only thing. Coke is the only cola. It kind of is, but there is Pepsi. There was RC. There's definitely different strokes for different folks. And Holloman doesn't think Andropoulos, I can't even pronounce his name, is off his pedestal. I really should stop putting people up there. Well, that is human nature. I'm very lucky that I've never had that. I've always been very skeptical. But I see people following. I mean, I don't mean like you listen to me, but you're not following me, and at least I don't think you are, hanging on every word, going around and repeating everything I say and insisting because Lois said it. I've never liked that. But there are people who they cotton on to that. They latch on to somebody. They only believe what they say. They get annoyed when you see with Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff was right, and I'm like, right about what? The Fed can never raise rates, and they raise rates. They raised rates 9 times. He said they never could raise rates, and then he says, well, other people thought they'd raise them higher, so I'm still right. And there are people say, yeah, see, they didn't normalize rates, so Peter was right. It's like, no, he wasn't right. He was wrong. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means he's wrong. It's the same thing with when you get into these ideas that something has to be money. Well, things can be valuable if they don't meet the definition of money. And someone cannot be right and still be smart. But anyway, I think differently than most people, even though I think the way I think is normal. But it's not normal because most people don't think the way I think. All right. Stacking assets. I just got here. Was busy stoking my Peter Schiff derangement syndrome. Yes, he's always right, isn't he? It's funny. It was a conversation you and I had that led me to that thought I just had on Peter Schiff. In fact, someone was pointing out. I was on Twitter today. He was saying gold. So Bitcoin will never go to 50,000. He's trying to get his name in the papers or whatever on TV. And he was complaining about Joe Kiernan. And then someone posted one of his gold predictions, gold 5,000 by whatever year, which never happened. And then Charlie Lee's brother, Tom Lee, who does make all kinds of crazy predictions, he got a chuckle out of that. And then Peter's like, well, my $5,000 prediction on gold wasn't nearly as bad as your $50,000 prediction on Bitcoin. Well, you're both wrong. Doesn't make you right, Peter. That you said gold 5,000 didn't happen because Tom Lee said 50,000 Bitcoin. I don't know if he did, but if he did, so what? That's the child argument. Johnny, did you steal a cookie? My brother took one too. Okay. So your brother took one too. That doesn't mean you didn't take one. Anyway. You know what's funny? Stacking assets. I got to show the comment that he has here. It says Smaulgld diagnosed me, and it was hidden. This is why I don't like YouTube. Hidden. I had to approve the comment. I don't know why that was hidden, other than maybe the medical profession doesn't want people doing diagnosis online. Dr. Camersano is diagnosing. Probably get banned now for having a diagnosis for Bitcoin derangement syndrome, or what do you call it, or Peter Schiff derangement syndrome. All right, let's see. You guys are talking. Oh, Antonopoulos is getting political, you say, talking bad about the South. Oh, well, yeah, I try, other than for, what's the word, sarcasm, irony, I try not to get involved in all the politics stuff. But when I see something like Bernie say something, I have to jump in, because, or when I see the Obamas buying a $15 million house, you say, well, what's going on here? You know, but there's plenty of sites you want to go and talk politics, have at it. All right, let's see what else you got. Ann, he's on my, well, Ann's comment is blanked out, but I'm not going to show it because she used a 4-letter word beginning with S and ending with T, so we're not going to show that one. All right. Oh, so he's far left. Interesting. I didn't know that. All right. Wow. Well, you know, but here's the thing. I mean, you can view people how you want. Someone can have a good point of view on something, and they can be a jerk and everything else. That doesn't mean that their one point of view isn't valid. And someone could be a saint and have a stupid point of view on something else. You still have to reject that dopey point of view, even though they're a saint. But that's just how I look at stuff. All right. San Francisco. Yeah, I used to live there. But I went back recently. It's worse than the Tenderloin area. Oh, Philip, you've been threatening to get one of those doggy bowls for your Smaulgld golden retriever. Very nice. They're up there. You can get the links are below. Sold a few of them. If you do get one, let me know and take a picture of your small golden retriever. Get it? And we'll show it here to the crew. Yeah, and Stacking Assets is mentioning how there's supposedly plague. There's also typhus. There's all kinds of stuff. All these diseases. I mean, there's a difference between being... It's not that it's understanding. It's not even tolerance. If you're concerned about homeless people, the worst thing you can do is just let them gather in one place. I mean, that's not helping them. There's got to be, I mean, if you're going to use government, there's got to be something better than just saying we're just going to back off and let them live in a tent. That's not right. I mean, there's so many different solutions. I mean, obviously, whatever they're doing in Los Angeles, if they think that's a solution, it's not working. It's plain as day. I don't want to get into, I don't know how to solve, and that's why it's not my expertise. But I'm sure there are better ways of solving homeless issues than they're handling it right now in Los Angeles. All right. Fiona, when are you planning the next stream? I don't get notifications anymore. Well, I send them out. So what I would suggest, I'm trying not to do them all the time. I do one every day. Try to do a video every day. I try not to do it as a live stream, but I'll probably do two. I'll definitely do Saturday night Silver with Smaulgld, probably Sunday night Solid Gold Sunday, and I'll do one or two maybe during the week. So it's generally around 7 o'clock. I send out, this is again, YouTube, you can't tell me they don't have the technical ability to send out the alerts. I mean, I set them up, I put up, I don't schedule it 2 minutes before, I schedule a couple hours before. So, I don't know what to tell you. Stacking assets, I hang on every word of Peter Schiff, yes. Wow, you had trouble with Antonopoulos, Ann, didn't you? Now, okay, so now, Ann, I'm going to show this comment. Not because I'm endorsing it, but you say he's a jerk. All right, that's an opinion. That's not defamatory. It's not even a swear word. But They hide that. Jerk is a bad, I guess jerk is a bad word now. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. And thank you very much. And we will see you tomorrow. Or maybe we won't.